Hello and welcome to the part 2 of the series How Economy Works. So in the last lecture we have dealt about the concept of total spending and how total spending affects the economy. So today we'll be extending the similar concept on the lines of credit in much more detail, and we will see how this concept can be used in writing your answers. Inherently this concept is important. You should know the concept of credit in much more detail, no matter you get a question or not, because this concept is linked to many other concepts. Then we will look about the debt cycle. Once you are aware about the debt cycle, you will be very much familiar about what happened in 2007 of the financial crisis, why again then the economy expanded, when then the economy came down again, and why it is again expanding. So debt cycle is an important concept from an understanding perspective. So you will come to know that the basics of economy is much more important, so that you can write the question and answer in a very simple way but very effective way. So go back to our lecture 1 if you have not seen the lecture 1, where we have spoken about the concept of total spending, credit, debt and other things. So these two sections, as usual, this always remain in every lecture, where we take the mains answer, where we say how to write the mains answer based on the concept above, and we will also see the past prelims question for UPSC. And again, these questions are very simple if you know the basics. So let's see the market participants. So who are basically the market participants? So if you are a buyer, you are a market participant. If you are a seller, you are a market participant. Say for example, you are considering about the manufacturing industry, or you are considering about the consumer goods, or you are considering about the services like IT, or the banking, or the RBI, or the government. All are market participants, because one or the other way they are into the market where they are buying or selling. So the manufacturer will sell the good, he will buy the raw material. The consumer goods, they will sell the goods, they'll market the goods. In terms of services, they will export the services. In terms of banking, they will sell their banking products, they will sell the loans. In terms of RBI will sell the government securities on behalf of government. At the end of the day, government is the biggest buyer and seller in the market, because government sells heavy and huge amount of quantum of bonds into the market, because they have to finances their deficit. So the government buys from the market, government sells in the market, government do all the market making activity into the economy. So you should understand this thing, that RBI and government are the biggest buyer and sellers in the market, specifically the government, predominantly the government. So we have understood about the government spending. Where does the government spend? So let's assume what happens if there is no credit into economy. So there is a guy A. Let's say if there is a bank, and there is guy B, there is guy C. In the last lecture we have seen the concept of total spending, or the spending and earning cycles. Now say this line is not available, there is no bank to give credit to A. Now the only option for A to earn more is to work harder more. Say for example, if he has a salary of, and if he wanted to earn more than 100, he has to work hard, he has to work very very hard, so that he gets appraisal, he gets bonuses, he is getting recognized. But let's keep those things aside as of now, and let's speak only pure terms in terms of spending. So now when A is restricted to earnings of only 100 rupees, so he can produce only whatever that can be produced in 100 rupee. So he cannot spend more than 100 rupee, right? Because he is only available with the 100 rupee, so he will spend only 100 rupee. So B can earn the max of 100 rupee, because there is no output from A to earn higher input for B. So B can again only earn 100 rupee. What max B can do is, say for example, again B's salary is 100 rupee, so what max B can do is B can spend only 200 rupee, right? So the maximum amounts they can earn is 200 rupee. So this happens when there is no credit into economy. Now say that if there is a credit into economy, so there is a bank. Now bank is ready to give credit to A, and A's as usual salary is 100. Say for example bank has given a credit of B. Now unlike of an earlier situations, now A can spend 200 rupee or double the amount what he would have spent it earlier in the absence of credit. But now there is credit availability to A. Now A can spend 200 rupee, B have already earned 200 rupee, and again this bank is available to B as well. So we can again get a loan of 100 rupee from bank, and B's salary is already 100 rupees, so 100 200, and this is 200 he has earned. So we can spend 400 rupee. So you can see how credit helps you grow economy. So this is a very basic concept that credit is the most important thing in the economy. If there is no credit, you may not see even the economy growing. Now let's understand about the credit and debt relationship, so which we have already spoken in the past lecture. So there is guy A, there is guy B. This is the importance of credit, where the credit works and where the credit doesn't work. Now there is a guy A, there is guy B. Say for example A has taken a credit and he has given output on that credit. So we don't go in that example. Just assume that A has taken a credit from B and A has agreed to pay this credit back in future. So now what has happened is B knows that whatever the money he has given, he will be getting back. So this credit has become an asset for B because he knows that this money will come back. Now that the A has got credit, he knows that somewhere in future he has to give this money back to B. So this becomes liability. And based on this concept, there was a prelim question in 2019 which we have already discussed in the past lecture. So this was just a recap. So now let's see when the credit is useful and when the credit is not useful. So there is, again as usual, we take A and B as an example. B is a seller and A is a buyer. Say for example A goes to B and buys on credit a television or any expensive watch. So what happens now is A has spent the amount on the credit to buy TV or to buy watch. Now this TV and watch may not be helpful for A to produce additional income. So at the end of the day, the TV's price will come down, the watch price will come down. So if you have bought a TV today for 30,000 rupee, next year you cannot go into the market and sell that the same TV at 30,000 rupee because there is a depreciation cost involved, because this TV's resale value will come down. So the next year you will go into the market and you will sell this TV for 2,000 rupees. So you have already made the loss of 10,000 rupee. But you have taken 30,000 rupee of credit, so you have to pay 30,000 rupees. So ultimately you are ending up with a loss of 10,000. So you cannot spend the credit to buy luxurious good unless you have income to support that in future. So here the credit is bad. But say for example again A and B, A goes into the market and buys a tractor for himself, that too on credit. But now the situation is different. A has bought this tractor to work on his farms and he can earn additional income from tractor in future. So whatever the goods he have bought on credit, that may be useful for him to fund this credit into future and make good life for A in future. So here in future he will pay back his credit and he will have additional income also. So in this case credit is good. So it completely depends if credit is good or if credit is bad. So we have seen the credit debt relationship. Now let's speak something about the debt cycle. we will always see an example of earning, spending, earning and spending, because this cycle is always running into the economy no matter whatever the concept you discuss. So A today goes into the market and buys a credit of 100 rupee. He spends, then B has a credit of 200 rupee, C has a credit of 300 rupee. But in future, A has to pay back 100 rupee, B has to pay back 200 rupee, and C has to pay back 300 rupee. So here, now that A has 100 rupee, B has 200 rupee, and C has 300 rupee. So have you seen the trend? So it is only increasing. So this is expansion. And in future, you have to pay back 100 rupee, you have to pay back 200 rupee, and C has to pay back 300 rupee. So in a short term, when you have a credit, it will always go up in an expansion mode, but ultimately it will come down because you have to pay the similar amount in future. So credit is buying from your own account in future. So at the end of the day, you have to pay back that money, right, whenever you earn. So at the initial stage, you might feel that you're growing with that money, but unless and until that money is not useful for a good purpose, you'll be fooling yourself and you'll be shooting your own foot into the future. So when you're buying today credit, you have to give that credit back in future. So you have this cycle. So there is this graph, there is this graph, and there is this graph. So you cannot have the straight graph because you cannot buy the consistent amount and spend the consistent amount without giving back the money, right? So this is impossible into economy. You also cannot have this graph because you are buying credit today, his earning becomes more, then his earning becomes more, and then his earning becomes more. But if they are not paying back, what happens? The economy will collapse. So again, this graph is not possible into economy. So graph is always like this. This graph is known as debt cycle. And this graph you should always keep in mind whenever you get the mains question about loans, about the concept of credit, about the concept of demand and supply. We'll also see the actual question where you can use this concept. So in 2016 mains, you had got a question on FDI. So the question says, justify the need for FDI for development of Indian economy. Why there is gap between MOU signed and actual FDIs? Suggest remedial steps to be taken for increasing the actual FDI. Now when you are writing an answer for such questions, you need to break down the question and understand the crux of the question. Now you have to write about the need, you have to write why there is gap, and you have to suggest the remedies. So this point you must have to cover in your answer. Even if you miss one point, you are losing the marks. So these 3 points you have to definitely cover. Now the key thing to understand in this question is which part becomes more important. Need, yes, this is important. Why there is gap, again this is important. Suggest remedial step, again this is important. But if you ask me, the part 3 is the most important part of this question, because if there is a gap, you have to fulfill that gap with the steps. Now had there would have been no gap, there would have been no remedial steps to be taken under, right? So the question would have been, say, how this can be boosted into the future without fulfilling the gap or any other sort of thing. So understand, this part becomes more important. Even if you focus on this part the maximum into the question, just by introducing this point and this point and writing the answer for this question, you'll be writing pretty decent answer on this, because you have to focus on this point. You have to understand like what is the important keyword into the question that you have been asked. So focus on that part the most. Now let's see how you would have gone writing this answer with the concepts you have learned in the past 2 lectures. Now yeah, you could have begun with the fact on FDI, or you could have begun with an introduction. Then you have to explain growth and expansion when FDI comes in. Now let's see. So you could have written this introduction, you could have written the definition of growth and expansion, you could have drawn the graph as well. Now let's come to the second point, why there is a gap. Now there is a gap because we have too many stringent labor laws. Then again, FDI is a long-term deal. FDI is not like there is something news into the market that the government is giving benefits in such and such industry. There is a GST tax cut on a product A, so let's go and establish a company on product A and sell that product A. No, FDI doesn't work that way. FDI is a long-term process. You have to understand the company from a very deep. You have to understand the country from a very deep perspective. So FDI is a long-term deal, and hence there is a gap. Your country should be stable. Only then you can get the FDI. So again, we have this problem because every year certain laws change in the country, and hence getting an FDI into the country becomes slightly difficult, or whatever we have agreed upon. Say for example, I have agreed upon 500 crores of investment, but say at the end of the 1 year I feel that certain factor had changed into the economy and I cannot invest that 500 crore right now, but I will invest 400 crore only. So again, there is a gap now, right? So again, this is non-volatile. It doesn't fluctuate with the news. It is a long-term concept. Once you have an FDI into the place, it doesn't volatile. So it remains. Now, where can you earn that extra brownie points in your mains answer? Now here the whole game changes. Now whatever the evaluator, when he will analyze your mains answer sheet, he will look for that certain keywords. Okay, this guy has understood, or this girl has understood about this and this candidate, and he is at a good position in writing the answer. When does this happen? When you include those certain keywords in writing the answer. Now when suggesting the remedies, you might talk about the labor laws, you might again talk about the long-term deal, you might again talk about the non-volatility. Say we can boost the labor laws, then the company can come. You might go about how you can still stick with this. No, but if you write certain different keywords where the FDI really depends, there you score the marks. So let's see how you can write the final part of this answer. What is FDI? FDI is a foreign direct investments. So coming from the overseas into economy. We have already spoken about growth, and we have already spoken about expansion. So just look at this both two graphs. Doesn't it look quite similar? But now when we break down in detail, say this is year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 and year 5. So you might have something like this. So when you are standing today and after 5 years, what you will say? You will only conclude that the economy has grown from 1 to 5. You will ignore this thing. So this thing is growth, because growth at this point in time, at the concluding point, you will see the last point. Yeah, the economy has grown. You will ignore these things. But when you are into short terms, whenever there is a spike, that is an expansion. So growth is an expansion because this is inherited. So from here to here it has expanded, right? From here to here. So this cycle has been expanded. So yes, this is an expansion. This is also an expansion because at this point in time you have expanded. In expansion, you don't look at the end point much. You look at the short time where you have got the spikes. So that is the concept of expansion. So when you get FDI, your economy expand, ultimately economy grows. So those are the two reasons. So these are the 5 points. So 1, FDI depends on the corporate taxes. So when you have the tax cut, so you might see the company now, if the company is investing in your country and if they are getting some tax benefit, definitely they'll want to invest in country more. So this is one of the point. Then there is sovereign rating. So what is the rating of your country? If you are AAA minus, you are AAA plus, BB minus, BB, what is the rating of your country? The better the rating, the better it is always. So this point again you have to mention. Labor laws, we have already seen that this point is important, but this point is not a remedial thing. You have to always give what is most important for an FDI to come in. So yeah, so improving labor laws, okay fine, the FDI will come in, but again will that be sustainable into the economy? It only depends about the profitability, it only depends upon the earnings. So sovereign ratings become the most important keyword, corporate taxes becomes the most important keyword. Now let's speak about the opportunity cost. Now this point is also important. Now say if you have India and if you have Indonesia and I am from certain third party country, say XYZ. If I am investing into India today, what is my opportunity cost? So opportunity cost is, say if I invested 100 rupee and I have made the profit of 200 rupee next year, so I have almost made a profit of 100% here. So here the opportunity cost is, if I would have not invested in India and if I would have invested in Indonesia, what would my profit look like? So that is an opportunity cost, what I'm missing on to. So if I would have invested 100 rupee in Indonesia and 300 rupee profit I would have earned, so definitely investing in India, my opportunity cost is very high because I'm losing on to the extra profit which I would have earned if I would have invested into Indonesia. So this is the basic concept of opportunity cost. So in a very simple term, opportunity cost is, if I would have not done this and if I would have done that, how would the cost would have impacted? So that is an opportunity cost. So again, permits and policies, these things are important, but to attract an FDI, your corporate tax is the most important thing, your sovereign rating is important thing, your opportunity cost is important thing. There is a difference between FDI and FPI. FDI is a foreign direct investment and FPI is a foreign portfolio investment. So this is a short term, this fluctuate on the news. FDI doesn't much fluctuate on the news. So if tomorrow, say for example, when Mr. Urjit Patel, the ex RBI governor, resigned, we have certain funds outflow from India, but we have not seen any company going outside of India because the company was an FDI and the FPI is a portfolio flows, the money which is coming into the portfolio of India. So FPI works on short term news, FDI doesn't work on short term news. So these things should also be very clear. So this is how you basically go on writing about the mains answer. You should always include those 1-2 keywords into the answer that makes your answer slightly different from other. Now when you are asked, give the needs, give the why there is gap, everyone knows why you need the FDI into economy, why there is gap into economy, but your answer will be stand out, your answer will be different only when you have got certain optimistic output or you have got certain keywords attached to that question and when you are delivering the output. So try to include those certain keywords. We definitely will help you give such keywords to your answer as well. Now as usually in every session, we also deal with one of the past prelims question. So this question was asked in 2018. If a commodity is provided free to the public by the government, then the opportunity cost is zero, the opportunity cost is ignored, the opportunity cost is transferred from consumer to taxpayers and transferred from government. Just now we have discussed about the concept of opportunity cost. We have defined that if you have not done this, then what would your cost be? So definitely there is certain cost to that situation, so this option becomes already wrong. So there is always certain cost to your things. The opportunity cost is zero only when there is no discrimination between two things, so they are exactly similar things. So only in that case your opportunity cost is zero. How does that matter that if you are buying iPhone 6 from Flipkart or Amazon? It does not matter much unless their price is slightly different. If you are getting the same product, the same price at two different platforms, how does that matter where you are buying from? So opportunity cost is zero is definitely the wrong answer because it does not work into real life. Opportunity cost is ignored. This again is wrong. You cannot ignore your opportunity cost. Whenever you buy something or whenever you invest into something, you always look for the alternative things. If I would have not done this, then what? If I would have not done this, then what? So definitely zero and ignore this option becomes wrong. Now opportunity cost is transferred from consumer to taxpayers. Now how does the government earn predominantly? The government earn from taxes, right? Now when you're paying the money in the tax form to the government, and if government is using that money to give that commodity free to the public, then your money is lost basically. So you're doing your hard earned money and you're giving that money to government, and government is not using that money for the fruitful purpose. And if that money is given to the public for free, then definitely you're losing onto your opportunity cost. You could have invested that money into certain different things and earn profit for you. So this option probably can be the correct answer, because you are losing onto your money opportunity. Again, opportunity cost is transferred from consumer to the government is again wrong, because government itself is spending that money. So opportunity cost is again not the fundamentals here. These two options are slightly closer, but taxpayers is more directly thing, because you are impacted at the end. So the option C is the correct answer for this question. So this was pretty much for today's session. So in the next part, we'll be dealing about the banking, we'll deal about the RBI concepts, we'll see about the SEBI, IRDA, NHB, roles and responsibilities of all these things. We'll also speak about the interest rates, CRR, repo rate, LAF, MSF and other things. So stay tuned. Thank you.